So thank you for joining us tonight. We're hoping to sort of just talk to you about the plans to see the new school start to take shape in your eyes. We have our architect here with us tonight who will talk us through. I'll introduce him formally in a moment. I'd just like to start with an acknowledgement, if I could. In the spirit of reconciliation, the Victorian School Building Authority acknowledges the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. We'd like to acknowledge the Bunurong people as the traditional owners of the land on which the students of Katandra and Berendale Schools learn and grow. So my name's Leanne and I work in community engagement with the VSBA. So it's our role to talk to communities when we start to have projects, communities that are happy with us, communities that are concerned, communities that are unhappy with us. We talk to them all, and it's our job to help you understand the projects that we're building and the things that we're trying to achieve in the many new schools that the state government has been building over the last 6 years since the VSBA was established, with a goal to build 100 new schools, and I think we are getting fairly close to that. So, it's pretty exciting. The development has been amazing, and the opportunities for the kids have been fabulous. So tonight, we just wanted to talk about the project, just to show you some of the, as I said, the architect's drawings that are starting to take shape, to talk to you about the merger and how that will work, to answer any questions that you might have. Anything that you put us on the spot with and that we can't answer tonight, we'll take away and we'll come back to you and give you as good an answer as we can. There are some elements of uncertainty in any building project, and sometimes there are things that we don't know, but whatever we're able to share with you, we absolutely will. So, as I said, I'm Leanne. Tonight here with me, I've got Brendan Sheedy, who's our Senior Project Officer for the school. I've got Robert, and I'm scared to say your names. I should have asked you, Benavue, okay. I should have asked you that first. I just keep calling him Rob, who's our project architect. Julia, of course, Christopher. Unfortunately, Foundation Principal Juliette Cooper is off on some kind of leave.
Yeah, she's on.
Yep. Good for her. And tonight with us also is from our region is Stuart Andrews. So we'll all be talking to you in various forms about the project tonight. So, as I said, the purpose is just to give you an overview of the project that will see all of the students from both of the schools learning on this site in early 2024. That's our estimated timeline. These things do change, but that's where we're looking at the moment. So we'll outline our current timelines for you and talk about the project and answer any questions. Brendan, would you like to talk to the project scope? You can do it there, you can do it here.
Sure.
Actually, it might be good here for our camera. We are recording this session tonight. My apologies, I should have said that to start with, just for parents who weren't able to attend.
Okay.
Just flick through where you want to go with that.
Okay, so...
Do you need some help? Visual help?
Yeah. The two schools, as you'd be aware, are now merging to form what's called at present the Katandra Berendale School, and I think we'll get a new name eventually. The state government has put in 12.6 million towards the project. We'll run through all the new spaces. I think we'll get Rob to do that, and what I'll talk to is where we're at with the building project. So currently it's been put out to tender. We had 4 tenderers submit, and it closed a couple of weeks ago. There's a tender evaluation panel that looks at all the tenders. We've been going backwards and forwards with the builders and asking them to confirm what they've allowed for and what they haven't. And we're having a meeting tomorrow in which we hope to have identified a preferred tenderer. The VSBA has very, very strong probity guidelines, so I can't tell you too much about who they are or what the scope will be. It's been a very difficult year this year in terms of cost escalation. You would have seen your grocery bills going up, and it's been very much the same with building projects. We've had some projects come in as high as 60% over budget. Fortunately, Katandra Berendale is nowhere near that level, so we haven't been able to achieve everything we wanted, but it looks like the project will be going ahead, and we'll be appointing a tenderer hopefully within the next couple of weeks. And so timeline will be starting preliminary works in January. So there's some enabling works to go on in this building and the senior hub next door. And then in January or February, we'll see the commencement of the demolition of Block A, which is the existing admin building. And that's pretty much the scope of where we're at and our projected program. Every builder has a different program, so depending on which one we appoint, that may vary slightly, but that's the expected timeline that we're looking at now.
I'm going to skip through a couple of these slides. We did share them at our last session, but I think the drawings that Rob has to show you are better. So we might sort of let him talk to his slides, and we can come back to some of these, I think. It might be better for everybody to sort of see from there.
There's just one more thing I should add, just on the current timelines that we're looking at from the builders. The junior hub will be completed in time for the 2024 academic year, which is the key thing, so that students from Katandra can move over, and then the other buildings that Rob will speak to will be completed later on during the year. So, yeah, great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I didn't say that Rob was from Neela Design, but you can
I can do that.
talk to that.
All right, so Neela Design Architects have been working for about 30 years, 20 of which has been in education. And most of that 20 has actually been working with special schools. So I thought I might start the presentation just reflecting on some of the projects we've done and the outcomes of the project. And what's interesting about that is it's got a lot to do with things that aren't necessarily architecture. But I'll let you know how that works. So the first one's Echuca Twin Rivers. So up at Echuca, it didn't get swamped, by the way, this one. We just missed out on the swamp. But we had the opportunity of bringing together two primary schools, Echuca West and Echuca South, with the special school. And the special school was a school that started one size and grew and grew. Half the school was on a gravel car park. So they'd totally outgrown where they were and they needed new facilities. Now, you can all catch up with that because the principal, Paul Marshall, did an interview on ABC and talked glowingly about his school. So it's actually worth Googling and having a look. What's nice about what he had to say, and this is where it does depart from the architecture, he talked about the opportunities at the new school that he simply didn't have at the school that he was in. You know, subjects that they could teach because they didn't have facilities in the buildings that they were in before. He talks about simple things like the acoustics, things that work within the buildings that obviously didn't work in the buildings that they were making do in the buildings they were in before. And they're simple things. They're things that allow teachers to not have to raise their voice because the acoustics are good. Or if when a student is loud, you don't hear them in the next classroom. Or when someone goes to the bathroom, you don't hear the flush. Very simple things, but they make a difference. So that's Echuca. It's a lovely school. There was a challenge at the start of the job bringing together a P to 12 special school with primary school. The primary school parents were worried about these very large special school students. And if you've seen some of them, they're much taller than I am. What we did at the school, we put a cafe right in the entry foyer and the special school run the cafe. So everyone gets to meet the students. And you very quickly realise the biggest, buffiest boy is actually probably the cuddliest boy. So all those sort of misconceptions about these kids just disappeared overnight. So it's a great outcome. The next one, Portland Bay School, down at Portland, bit like Katandra. The special school was on this really restricted site. They moved to a new site, not far from where they were, into purpose-built buildings. They had behavioural issues at their previous school, probably because it was so crammed in. At the new school, they haven't had anywhere near the same issues. I think it was probably the most locked down school in Victoria. Doesn't occur anymore. So really good outcomes there. Steve Cropley, the principal, really happy. So if you're going past any of these schools, you're on a holiday, you're most welcome to drop in. Next one, Frankston, so a bit closer to home. Frankston's your classic 70s buildings. They're good, but they're very tired. So some new classrooms, multi-purpose room, and once again, acoustics, sunlight, those sort of things have shone through at the buildings, and you know, the kids are thriving, and that's what it's about. But it's also about teachers having spaces where they can teach, and it makes their job easier, and that transcends through to the students. And then the last one I'll mention is Horsham, because it's the most like your school. It was the joining of a junior school with a senior school onto a brand new campus. And the principal there made the comment about how peaceful the new environment was. And he said, Rob, you mightn't understand what that means. When the kids are at peace, my teachers are at peace. It just flows right through. You know, yes, Juliet, you can relate, makes a big difference. So, yes, we're talking about architecture, but these are the sort of outcomes that happen with new buildings. And it's why governments invest in new buildings. It's not just to look good, you know, to get those sort of outcomes or keep the building industry running. It's actually for these great outcomes that, you know, have an impact on your child at a school. So now we'll talk about your project in particular. The existing facilities, you've done a bit of a walk around, so I'll just give you a bit of an idea. Most of us came through the administration. We call that Block A. Block A is your old, what we call LTC, light framing type building. They were built after the war. They were never built to last as long as they have. So any school where you find LTCs, they're slowly getting rid of them, all right? They're past their use-by date. So that is the plan with this building. Let's get rid of it. The building that we're in at the moment is called Block D. It's the most recent building on site. By the time the school's finished, it's really the only building that we're keeping because it's in excellent condition. If you have a look within the kitchens, it's got excellent facilities. The only difference that we're making in this building is opening up these two classrooms and creating a library. So all students, it's the most central building, can actually have a purpose library that they can actually come to. The other infrastructure item that we need to do here is bring all the IT that's in that administration building that you came and put it in here so it never moves again, all right? And then it can serve all the new buildings that are built around the site. So that Brendan mentioned early works, those sort of enabling works, that's what's going to happen first of all. Then we've got some existing buildings on site which will be used by Berendale to run their school. And we've got this building up here which is a community building. Now it is a bonus. It's not counted in the area schedules or anything that's here. You get an existing pool on site, some multi-purpose hall because they're already here. All right, so everyone gets to use them. They're a bonus, and it's a very special actual component of this site that you don't always get. Often we're all getting into buses to do swimming somewhere else. Well, there is the facility for it to happen here. Axonometric. What this does is show the existing site, but shows that we're in this residential neighbourhood. We can hear it now. It's lovely and quiet here. Every time I come to this school, the environment's sort of a peaceful place to be. The wetlands and sort of park behind us over the road, lovely place to be. My nephew takes his newborn child there in the pram all the time and walks around there. All right, so really nice area to be, environment. I encourage you, if you don't know it that well, go down and see the playing ovals down there. Train up there, and obviously Katandra not too far up the road. 5 kilometres, I measured it. It's not that far. That takes us on to the existing building. So I'll actually talk you through the building works. The very first thing that we're going to do is quarantine or hive off the building that we want to demolish. And separation of builders from children is a very important thing to get right. What we want to do is give the builder enough room to be able to build and do their job and get it done, and the school to operate efficiently outside the building zone. So Berendale have all this amount of site to run their school. Everything that is in Block A is relocated to other buildings. So Berendale, we've been through student numbers over and over again. There is more than enough rooms within the facilities that are here to operate Berendale School. Katandra don't move over until this whole project is finished. Katandra move over into lovely, brand new, finished landscape buildings. So you don't get involved in the building works, but Berendale do, and there's a real positive to that. What we do with the boundary is actually build a plywood fence, all right? So it's a solid fence between the builder. It's not those chain link wire builders fences, it's a solid fence that goes right the way around. And we put in the fence a few windows, perspex windows. And the reason we do that is so students can come and watch builders building. We've just done it at Yarraville, at the special school there, and now I think the VSBA are adopting it for all special schools as a good outcome for kids watching building works. And I mentioned the Frankston School earlier. When I used to go to building site every second week, there was a boy from the school that used to run up to me and tell me everything the builder had done for the last 2 weeks. So don't think that it's not a positive experience for kids watching buildings being built, all right? It's a really good outcome. As a child, I would have seen what was going on. I mightn't have said much, but as a result, later in life, I've sort of gone down that road that it fascinated me that much that I actually, went into outside of the building industry. So that's the construction. Those fences stay up until the building works are finished. They work within that building zone. There are some services that run from the outside, but they need to be done either out of hours or in holiday work, and we'll do that in consultation with the builder. And they're part of the enabling works that Brendan mentioned as well. But we just manage our way through that while the building works are going on. What are we actually building? I thought we might get to that. All right. 3 distinct buildings. One is what we call the junior school. And what we've done here is said that the really littlies need protection. They need a protected environment. So we're building a building, it's a bit like wrapping your arms around. So it's a building that is slightly a Y-shaped, and it has its own outdoor play areas. So the real young children have a learning environment and a protected outdoor play environment. And that play environment's a fenced area with their play equipment, all right? So teachers have full control of students coming and going from the learning inside to the play outside. And it all faces north, so it gets lovely sun orientation into it, and it faces onto the houses. So I've mentioned about the quietness of the area. That is probably the quietest, most protected part of the site. All right, so that was picked deliberately. It's directly behind where we are at the moment, okay? The next part, and so that takes students from P to 4. P, 1, 2, 3, 4. They all get a classroom each, and the classrooms are big. The classrooms are designed for 12 students. Now, Katandra, you haven't got 12 students per year level, so you're going to have room to spare. Sorry?
We might have next year.
Oh, well, there you go. Well, there's plenty of room for them, and that's important. I'll go through the floor plans of what's actually in the buildings. So a child progresses from P, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then goes to what we call the middle school. So we all know with students, they get to an age where they sort of want to move on. And that grade 5 and grade 6 is that sort of sense of maturity, sense of growing up, and giving that child a little bit more scope than when they were a junior. So we're putting them in the middle school. It's a very protected environment though. Downstairs for grade 5 and 6, and then upstairs for years 7 and 8, which I'll get to the floor plan of how that works. So there's still separation between the year levels, but the student has worked their way grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and then upstairs 7, 8. And there's this really important thing with children of them feeling that they're progressing their way through school and becoming more adult as they go. So this building very much caters for that. The other building that's shown here is a STEM building. think we've all heard about STEM, art, science, bringing those together. And they're purpose-built buildings. So that's for all students, whether you're a really young student or a senior student, to come to a purpose-built art room or a science room that's dedicated and set up. It means that the teacher isn't making do with a classroom and turning it into an art room. The room's already purpose-built for that very reason. So it also means the facility in that room is much better than what we would get in a repurposed classroom. So the art room, for example, has got a proper kiln. Yep, a proper kiln, and the science room has all science sort of facilities. Then I've mentioned the building that we're in, turning it into a library, as well as the food technology that's here. All right, now some floor plans. Let's actually see what happens in here. So this is the junior school building. So what we start with is the large rooms are the classrooms. So P, 1, 2, 3, 4 classrooms. Most important with classrooms that we've got teacher supervision. So a dedicated teacher supervised area for the classroom and a second one for the other classroom. So teachers are nearby every time there are students learning. Students can learn in their dedicated classroom. From their classroom, they can have a little alcove off their room where they might do one-to-one teaching, or they might go and do an activity on their own, but they can still be supervised by a teacher in the room. So that little alcove might have bean bags or different type material than in the rest of the classroom. From the classroom, access out to the play area, access to a wet bench, so if they did want to do a wet activity or just wanted to fill their water bottle or get something to eat, they've got a little wet room and a toilet that's accessible from both classrooms. IT room for all the server that looks after the building, and a meeting room at each end of the building, one down each end, which once again allows specialist teachers coming in to take students aside and have a dedicated room that they can work with the student and not get distracted with other activities within the building. We then have a communal area for all students that they could flow into. It's got a kitchen sink as well as a bench with additional storage. And last but not least, we've got some toilets that are accessible from inside as well as accessible from the playground. So the junior facility is standalone. All the junior needs are met within that building. Fairly simple sort of layout, but quite efficient. There's really no wasted space within the actual building. Then we go to the ground floor of the middle school. So as I mentioned with the middle school, grade 5 and grade 6, once again, a shared wet area, access to a bathroom, a meeting place or an outdoor activity area, a staff room to supervise the whole area, and another little one-on-one meeting room. Okay, so self-contained within the building. If you were going to grade 7 or 8, there are stairs or there is a lift to upstairs. All right, so there's access from downstairs to upstairs within all the buildings. The STEM building, I mentioned there is an art room down the far end, a science room in the middle, and then what's special to Berendale, a horticultural room. So quite different, that propagation's done here and all sort of horticultural activities. So this is where we talk about programs and the opportunity. So there are veggies at the school. This is building on that existing program. If it's a lovely day, there's provision for outdoor learning on the deck, and once again there is access to upstairs, big storeroom and access to upstairs. For upstairs, When you get to year 7 at Berendale, it goes 2 streams. So there's actually 2 rooms for year 7, 2 rooms for year 8. The school starts to get larger at that stage. They also have breakout space that they can work as a group or individually, as well as toilets on their floor, so they're not wandering off to other buildings just to go to the bathroom. It's all contained within the building. The staff room is very central, so once again we've got good supervision over all the activities in the building, and there is another meeting room. So all the needs of the student, the teacher, are contained within that building. Also a stair at each end, so there's more than one way of getting in and out of the building. Last but not least, we've got a number of visual images, but we'll just settle on this one. So with this image, it's the image that you walked into the current building that we're demolishing. And what you're looking at there on the right-hand side is the junior school, which is a single-storey building. And then on the left is the grade 5 to 6 component, the middle school, and then upstairs for year 7, 8, which is a 2-storey building. So quite a different experience for students as they've progressed from the junior school. The materials that we've selected are all hard wearing, so it's built to last, bricks on the ground floor, metal and lighter weight construction upstairs, metal frame windows, so we're very mindful for the school that we don't want to spend forever maintaining buildings, that it's actually covered. And all those elements like environmental design, ESD, number of stars, all that's been met, all the windows are double glazed. I could go on and on and on, but it's all covered in the new design. So quite exciting. Hearing Brendan, the next step, we're finally getting to a builder to get started, is probably the most enjoyable part, because then we can get it built. And the really enjoyable part is when your children start occupying it. Thank you.
Probably before we start to talk about anything more in the merger and how some of the logistics will work, does anybody want to sort of ask any questions or make any comment or just chat to us about what you've just seen? Is there everything clear? Don't be shy, it's here for you. This is, if there's anything, we understand, that this is, just get myself into a spot where I won't fall over here. We understand that this is new and it's, you're not sure what's happening. If there's anything that we can help to talk to you about, any concerns that you have, anything that you think looks like it's going to work, looks like it's not going to work, this is the time to let us know.
Is it worth touching on the master plan? So that this is one stage.
We didn't get there.
Project?
Yep. Did you? I've got that in mind, haven't I? Can skip back to that. I don't think it's me. I think it's just a little bit slow. If there's anything you want me to stop at, just pause. Anything that you wanted to look at that Rob's spoken to you about?
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah. So, do you want to talk to that? Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right. So at the moment, Berendale enter from Berend Street. That's sort of the history, that's what you know the school by. But because this is a new identity, this is a new school, the whole school will now be faced at Dane Road. So it's reorientating where the school is because it's a new school. It's not recreating the school that's already here. And what is going to happen long term from Dane Road, and keep in mind at the moment the kids that catch the bus get off at Dane Road. So the kids are very used to entering the school from that side. But what will happen long term, there'll be a car park, which will be a drive-through car park for visitors and parents dropping off students. There will be a loop that will allow buses to drop off students on site rather than off site. So in the day you have the coaster buses that take kids on excursions on a regular basis. They'll be able to load and unload students on site, which is very important. Directly in front will be the administration building, so brand new administration, new front to the school, as well as staff room facilities, which are actually upstairs from administration. So teachers have got somewhere where they can sort of get away, have a rest, recharge, go back and see the students. And also at the front of the school is the senior building. So putting those kids that are about to finish school at the very front of the school. From the administration and the senior building, we then go to the building that we're in at the moment. The junior school is well and truly finished, as well as the middle school. And the last component is to build this multi-purpose building, which gives you performing arts, those sort of activities in a building that is purpose-built in that location. We have allowed enough room that if ever we wanted to build an inside gymnasium, that could happen at a much later date. So there's quite a bit of planning behind what's here, and the wish list is also included there as well. The reason the VSBA have chosen to build these buildings first is the importance of bringing Katandra into new buildings is more of a priority than setting up an administration. So that happens in the next stage, and we could never have built both stages in one go because we would have had to take all the students off site. So having a staged project is quite important in far as rolling out how the actual works happen. And then obviously the big oval stays, and the portables that are currently placed around the site are all replaced with brand new buildings. They disappear. Thanks.
So when we do these master planning, it's because we know that one, it's practical and it lets the school operate, but also the secondary level of it is that a lot of the funding comes across through different budgets. So this is the dream, and we hope that the successive budgets will deliver the funding for this. But there's no guarantee that funding will occur immediately. It may take a longer period of time, and that's why we sort of lay it out and design it the way that we have at the moment. So do you understand I think Rob was really, really clear about the things that will be delivered in this first stage. So they were all of the things that he showed you in that first plan there. But I have got just another, oops, I'll get to that one. Simpler one, just sort of showing that stage one. So there's kind of the wording for you to read there that, what the stage one will deliver. All of the relocation and all of the different things that Rob talked you through. So if that brings up any questions for anybody, please let us know.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
So where the kids get dropped off in that bus designated zone and the primary school is over the other side of the school grounds, like how is that?
Yeah. So they're ushered through the administration. So there's this... No, you'd have to go back to the other one.
Back to the other one. I think it's just one slide across.
Yeah. There's this lovely gap. So they actually walk through, and that's their path up to their school. And there's an entry at each end of this building, and that's what we're encouraging, the flow actually through here. And these will be created in time as sort of sensory gardens and whatnot, which are especially important for the young children in particular. So yeah, there's a general sort of flow that takes you through.
And Rob, could you just talk about while stage one will still be coming in from the north?
Yeah, so stage one has the option. The entry that we all walked through today is exactly there. So that was that perspective of walking in. So you have both options of coming in, and it's why we put entry doors for this building at each end of the building. Yeah.
All right, do you want to talk about the merger and the merger process and the timelines? Is that helpful? Stuart, I might...
Yeah, sure.
Got a slide here that...
All right.
There we go.
So you can have a read of that while I chat. And so most people in the room have participated in a few of these meetings previously, and we've had school council meetings here at Berendale and council meetings and an information session like this at Katandra as well. So if we think back, back pre-COVID, back when Bruce McFate was the principal of the school, there'd been discussion going back many, many years about the facilities at Katandra, and Bruce invited me to come along and meet with the school council and talk about, I guess, a vision that had been discussed on and off over the years about bringing Katandra to the Berendale site and providing quality facilities and purpose-built, fit-for-purpose facilities for younger children. And so that was, I guess, the beginning of that conversation about what could we do and what could it look like. I'm aware that this has gone on, and I'm sure other people in the room that have had a longer engagement with Katandra than me would remember the stories from other times when there'd been discussion about trying to find a way to bring the schools together onto the common site. And when we think about that from Katandra, you all know the Katandra site, you all know how landlocked it is, you all know that it's a group of older buildings that were never designed to be built to house children. They were residential homes, whereas the facility that this process brings us is fit for purpose, custom designed facilities for the children. And so it's really placing the child at the centre, and it's placing their needs at the centre in terms of what are the best facilities for the children. And when you think about this beautiful site, and you've had a lovely chance, most people this afternoon, to wander around in the sunlight and see the size of the site and the facilities that it has here, the opportunities are quite considerable when you compare the two sites. Just the sheer space, the proximity to such a quiet neighbourhood, the ability, particularly by stage 2, to bring kids safely onto site and hand them back safely to parents. Those sorts of things are really important, I know, to parents. They're the sort of procedures and processes that happen now at Katandra, and they'll still happen at this site. And when you think about the way that Robert has designed the facility for that first stage with distinct precincts for the youngest children and the next level of children, so there's that natural progression as the children mature and grow older, they'll move with their friends through the school all the way to the senior years. And Berendale has a great reputation for the work that it does with its senior students, most of whom, I'll add, started out at Katandra. And most of the parents on school council at Berendale that I've met used to be the parents on school council at Katandra. So there's that kind of natural evolution, but to bring the students together in one site, I think, is the key. What does that provide? It provides fit-for-purpose facilities. It provides facilities that neither school would ever be able to create. But coming together creates that, and it enables a great deal more flexibility in teachers spending time with other teachers and talking about the developmental needs of children. There's opportunities in terms of the technology and the equipment and materials that are available, again, for the benefit of children. And ultimately, it presents a really calm and inviting environment for everybody to participate in. You know, imagine coming here and dropping your children off. Imagine coming and seeing an art show, coming to a fete, and you get a feel for what this is like and what it can be like. So that's the kind of history behind the idea of the merger. From that initial meeting with the school council, then we moved forward. There was an opportunity to put in a request for some grant, a small amount of money, to do some sketching, if you like, around what could this look like. And then from there it's gone on and on to the point that stage 1 is guaranteed, money's there, obviously about choosing the right cost-effective builder to deliver that. So for next year, some work going on around the top of the school for the Berendale facility, Berendale kids, families and staff. But for Katandra, no real change next year. Same facility, same teachers, pretty much same for next year for Katandra. Beyond that, 2024, Katandra kids coming over here using the facilities that have been created for them, and the school starting to grow as one entity. Be a lot of work next year in terms of building that culture of a single identity. The school's gone through the process, and it's a really technical process of having to effectively shut Berendale School and shut Katandra School and reopen the Katandra Berendale School. And we've moved forward with that process with the advertisement and the selection of the foundation principal. And so Juliet Cooper is the foundation principal, a very, very skilled individual. Anyone that's met Juliet will understand her commitment to this part of education. She's been the principal at Port Melbourne Special School for many years, a very experienced person. I think the school was very lucky in being able to pick up such an experienced person to really bring the two schools together under one culture and one entity. And that's really important because it should look and feel the same for Katandra kids, and it should look and feel the same for Berendale kids. So it's really important to find those synergies and find those common threads that are going to make it, one big family. And so that's the kind of environment we're looking for in 2024. So a lot of work next year in terms of getting staff working together, getting common plans and common models of operation, and then when the children and staff from Katandra come onto site, it should be relatively seamless. There'll always be a few hiccups, but it should be relatively seamless. Are there any questions? Yeah.
So at Katandra currently we've got group A, B, C, but I see on the plans here we've got like prep 1, 2. Does that mean the children won't be grouped in such broad age groups once they merge?
So you could see by those facilities, so there's a lot of flexibility in that space.
Yeah.
So I reckon that's up to the teachers in the future negotiating with families and talking about what are the best options. There's quite a lot of flexibility in that. But yes, dedicated spaces for prep children and dedicated spaces for year 1 and year 2 are really valuable in terms of meeting their learning developmental needs at those stages. But you could see by those sketch plans, there were breakout spaces, there were common areas. So much like this space here, there's a great deal of flexibility. So kids can be part of a group or in a particular class, or one-to-one, or an NDIS person comes in and there's a speechy working with a child. It's that kind of flexibility. I'm sure Robert would echo that.
A lot. You've got a few spare rooms and play table tennis. It's such a luxury to have extra space.
Yeah. But I was just wondering if, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I know what you're saying.
Do we have an answer to that?
And Simone, I guess what will happen with a brand new site, you're going to get new enrolments.
Yes.
And so already I know that there's a lot more interest next year. So we may have 2 little preppy classrooms next year.
Yeah.
So that's what happens as well.
Yeah.
So that might
watch this space.
Yeah.
And that would change from year to year too, wouldn't it? Depending on the actual students that came in each year and the different,
Yeah, but like my point is traditionally schools go prep, grade 1, grade 2.
Yep.
Where at Katandra we don't have
And
that.
you like that about the school, and it works.
I like that kids are grouped with their own
So
age.
they have.
They might be grouped with a prep and a 1, and that's okay.
Yeah. We're calling them prep and 1 because that's traditional, but I hear what you're saying.
Yeah, like
obviously
concept
So the two things are traditionally they have been, but more these days spaces are flexible, and there's different grouped year levels working in flexi spaces. That's more common in the building structures of schools today, and the pedagogy, the teaching and learning that happens in those spaces reflects those shared spaces. So that is not uncommon today. And it's really about next year in terms of having those conversations, having those parent forums, working with the staff and working through to make the models work in the new facilities. But the facilities themselves are very flexible in terms of how they can be used. Yeah.
And you might not be the guy to ask about this either, but I'm going to pose it.
What's that?
So a lot of us live over near Katandra. That's why we're in Katandra. I know it's only 5 k's to here.
Yep.
But do we have any heads up on the bus route and stuff like that? Are we going to hit the catchment for the bus route? Are they going to be expanding that? Like, do we know anything about that?
So what I do know is that the DTA, the designated transport area, I would suspect would be adjusted as a result of that. When we looked at some data earlier and we did a bit of an overlay of the two DTAs, the Katandra DTA and the Berendale DTA, they almost matched.
Okay.
So the existing DTAs of the two schools are almost identical.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did that overlay exercise. It was shown here on an evening with the council. So I don't think there's going to be any wild changes.
Yeah. Okay.
But it should be okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So if I look at the current bus route, like,
Yep.
that will give me a fair idea.
Yes, it should.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if you've got questions like that, I'll pop up our VSBA number. Just email us. We'll find someone, we'll find out for you, we'll do the research.
Okay.
And, you know, it's our job to answer your questions. So if there's anything you're not comfortable with or you're worried about, there's always someone to ask, and, you know, there's always a way to resolve a problem. If something's not quite working, then we look at other ways to do it.
Any other questions?
Yeah,
Yep.
with regards to the Katandra site, is that going to be sold off, or is there provision for extra facilities to be put there as part of, or is it?
I don't know what the outcome of the Katandra site is
Yeah,
going
no
to be.
decision has been made yet.
Yeah.
We're just largely being told that it's a state government facility and that decision will be made about it in the future. So I guess it's, you know, whether it's needed for space, whether it's needed to fund other spaces, we don't know yet. Yeah, I don't think anybody could answer that one for you right now, particularly not a government that's just come back and has got a lot of other things to
I think it's
sort out.
reasonable to say there's no plans for it,
Oh,
Yeah.
but what happens to it, don't know in the long run. But the government owns the land, so
Okay.
that's the state government that owns the land.
Yeah, and they might sit on it for years and then decide to do something. So, yeah,
I might have a chat with Steve Staples.
Yeah.
why not? One thing in all of this talking that's really nice to just go away and think about, I think for all of you as well, is that, you know, because as, you know, Rob said so beautifully, that this is a new school, it is a new opportunity. It's not going to have to be stuck in old names, old tradition. People from the community might like to really keep both names. That might be lovely, or there might be a wonderful way that we can create a new name and a new identity for the school. So that's a really lovely conversation to have. We do take naming of our schools quite seriously. We put them out to community consultation, and we ask for sort of Indigenous names, and we ask for non-Indigenous names and historical names, and we then sort of put them pretty much to a community vote. I always put the disclaimer that the Minister of Education does have the final say on what school name is chosen, but we do run a really, really strong community consultation process. So have a think about some really nice names and things that really matter to your parents and your communities. You know, talk to teachers, talk to other parents, and there will be an opportunity to do that at some point too. Any other questions, thoughts, concerns?
Can I just ask, so obviously the preps building is stage 1, and then the admin building is stage 2, or possibly. So at the beginning of 2024, how will parents drop on?
And I realised when I did it, I skipped over it. Yeah. So what we're doing is back you go, repurposing this building as the administration. So taking everything out of there, it means that there is car parking across there, parents, visitors. It's the first building you'll go to. And so likewise with the question about if the junior school's here, in the short term, administration, you'll come to administration, you'll go straight to the junior school. Yeah, and I totally skipped over it. So yes, that's the case.
Have you had any other questions come through the school, Julia? Anything else that you think people are concerned about?
No. I think a lot of people are excited. I think they know that there's lots of work to be done. But I think that they're looking, very positively at the the opportunities,
Yeah,
especially with
we
the
hope
new
so.
buildings. And
Yeah.
I know that there's been a lot of work behind the scenes already with the schools getting together and discussing programs and stuff. Already all this term, there's been quite a lot of getting together with the teams and things. So
Well, that's true, and as that's only going to expand
that's only
as
and look, there's been connections in the past, some really nice connections.